Welcome in, and take a moment to really sit with this, because sometimes in the NFL, the most important moves aren't the ones a team makes themselves, but the ones made for them by chaos elsewhere. The Green Bay Packers' stunning wild card collapse against the Chicago Bears didn't just end their season in embarrassing fashion. It quietly reshaped the draft landscape for another franchise entirely. And that franchise is the Dallas Cowboys. Because of that loss, the pick Dallas owns from Green Bay is now locked in at number 20 overall. And when you combine that with Dallas' own pick at number 12, the Cowboys suddenly walk into the 2026 NFL Draft holding two top 20 selections. For a team staring down a full defensive reset in the aftermath of trading Micah Parsons, that is nothing short of massive. This is not a Cowboys roster that can afford to draft passively. The 2025 season exposed structural flaws across the defense, from the lack of consistent edge pressure to shaky linebacker play, to a secondary that simply could not hold up over 4 quarters. Parsons wasn't just an elite pass rusher. He was the identity of the defense. He was the piece offenses feared, the player coordinators built entire game plans around. Once he was gone, the Cowboys were left with a defense that reacted instead of dictated. That reality is what makes this draft and these 2 first-round picks so critical. 2 top 20 picks give you options. You can chase elite talent, or you can weaponize flexibility. But here's the complication. Dallas does not own its original second or third-round picks in 2026. That means if they stay put and simply make 2 first-round selections, they will disappear from the draft board for a long stretch on day 2. For a team with as many holes as Dallas has on defense, that's dangerous. So the goal of this mock draft isn't just to add talent. It's to restore balance, depth, and sustainability to a roster that badly needs it. At pick 12, though, there's no reason to overthink things if the board breaks the right way. If Texas Tech edge rusher David Bailey is still available, the Cowboys should sprint the car to the podium. Bailey checks nearly every box you want in a modern NFL edge defender. He's listed at 6'3", 250 pounds, with a frame that can still carry more functional strength without sacrificing explosion. An explosion is the word that defines his game. His first step off the snap is elite, the kind that immediately puts offensive tackles on their heels. But what separates Bailey from so many college pass rushers is that he knows how to turn that burst into production. He isn't just fast, he's technical. He understands leverage, timing, and how to chain moves together to finish plays. This past season, Bailey was the engine of a ferocious Texas Tech defense, racking up 15 sacks and 43 quarterback hurries, while posting a pass rush win rate north of 21%, one of the best marks in the country. That kind of efficiency matters because it translates. And it's not just about rushing the passer. Bailey plays the run with discipline, sets the edge, and doesn't shy away from contact. That's critical for a Cowboys defense that struggled mightily against physical rushing attacks. Bailey isn't Micah Parsons, and he doesn't need to be. What he is a foundational edge defender you can build around, a day 1 starter who immediately raises the floor of your front 7. Pairing him with Donovan Ezeaku gives Dallas a legitimate edge duo that can survive and even thrive in a post-Parsons world. Now the real chess match begins. Pick 20 is valuable, but its true power lies in who is drafting behind Dallas. Quarterbacks always change the math, and teams like the Rams or Browns are perpetually looking for their next answer under center. If one of those teams falls in love with a prospect like Ty Simpson or Trinidad Chambliss, Dallas suddenly becomes the gatekeeper. That's leverage, and smart teams use leverage to fix multiple problems at once. In this mock scenario, the Cowboys trade back from pick 20 to pick 29 with the Los Angeles Rams, embracing the reality that this is a roster that needs bodies just as much as it needs stars. The trade down accomplishes several things at once. It keeps Dallas in the first round, adds a second-round pick at 61 and a third-round pick at 93, and even brings future draft capital into the mix. Yes, it means passing on some higher-end talent at 20, but it also means the Cowboys aren't invisible for the entirety of day 2. And when you're trying to rebuild a defense that has holes at linebacker, corner, and safety, that matters more than chasing one more flashy name. At pick 29, Dallas turns its attention to the heart of the defense and selects Georgia linebacker C.J. Allen. This is a pick that won't dominate headlines, but it absolutely addresses a glaring weakness. Allen comes from one of the most pro-ready defensive systems in college football, and over the past 3 seasons, he's logged more than 1,500 defensive snaps against top-tier competition. What stands out immediately is his run defense. Allen diagnoses plays quickly, takes clean angles, and closes downhill with real violence. His football IQ shows up consistently in his run fits, and that's something Dallas sorely lacked in 2025. Allen isn't a finished product. His coverage instincts and blitz timing still need refinement, and he's not yet the kind of linebacker offenses fear in space. But the tools are there. The athleticism is there. And when you pair him with a healthier DeMarvion Overshown, you suddenly have a linebacker duo that can actually control the middle of the field instead of being targeted. This is about stabilizing the defense, not just chasing splash plays. With pick 61, the Cowboys move to the secondary and select Keone Scott out of Miami. The defensive backroom in Dallas is overdue for a reset. Outside of Darren Bland and Siobhan Revel, there aren't many players you can confidently project as long-term pieces. Scott's path is interesting. After transferring from Auburn to Miami, he revitalized his career, showing improved discipline, confidence, and versatility. He primarily played in the slot for the Hurricanes, but his tape suggests he can line up across the formation. Scott is physical, willing in run support, and comfortable in both man and zone coverage. His frame and age might push him down draft boards, but this is exactly the type of player Dallas should be targeting. Someone who can contribute early, bring toughness to the secondary, and grow into a larger role over time. He's not just a coverage defender. He's a tone setter, and that matters for a defense trying to rediscover its identity. By the time pick 93 rolls around, Dallas sticks with his secondary and takes a swing on upside, selecting Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo. Small school prospects always come with questions, but McNeil-Warren's production and metrics demand attention. Over the past 2 seasons, he's graded out as one of the most effective safeties in the country, allowing a passer rating under 45 in coverage and forcing incompletions at an elite rate. Those numbers don't happen by accident. McNeil-Warren has the size at 6'2", 202 pounds, and the instincts to play either safe safety spot. He reads quarterbacks well, anticipates routes, and has real ball skills. The concern, of course, is tackling. 14 missed tackles in a season is a red flag, but tackling is coachable. Coverage instincts are not. The Dallas Cowboys are officially at one of the most important crossroads they've faced in years, and it isn't about a quarterback, a draft pick, or a blockbuster trade. It's about leadership, philosophy, and whether this franchise truly understands how deep the defensive hole has become. The search for a new defensive coordinator is now fully underway, and the names coming through the doors of the Star tell a very clear story. Dallas knows it cannot afford to get this hire wrong. Over the past few days, the Cowboys have already conducted 3 interviews, speaking with Minnesota Vikings defensive pass game coordinator Durant Jones, Cleveland Browns safeties coach Ephraim Bonda, and Denver Broncos defensive pass game coordinator Jim Leonard. On the surface, those names may not jump off the page to casual fans, but they reflect a deliberate shift in thinking. These are not legacy hires. These are not splashy, brand-name coordinators being brought in for optics. These are teachers, schemers, and developers. Coaches who have worked in modern defensive systems and have been tasked with solving passing games in an era where stopping the pass is the entire ballgame. At the same time, the Cowboys did attempt to swing higher. They requested permission to interview Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, a respected defensive mind with head coaching experience and a reputation for physical, disciplined football. That request was denied. Atlanta, now searching for a new head coach after firing Raheem Morris, another potential Cowboys candidate, chose to keep Ulbrich in-house. That denial matters because it highlights the competition Dallas is facing. Good defensive coaches are not sitting around unemployed. They are either being promoted, protected, or aggressively pursued elsewhere. And that brings us to the name hovering over this entire process, Brian Flores. Flores is the type of candidate who changes the temperature of a room the moment he becomes available. He is currently the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, and his work there has been nothing short of remarkable. In a league that is increasingly built around spacing, tempo, and quarterback comfort, Flores has consistently found ways to disrupt timing, confuse protections, and manufacture pressure without elite personnel. His defenses are aggressive, unpredictable, and unapologetically attacking. This week is critical because Flores is now free to interview for defensive coordinator positions after completing head coaching interviews last week. That distinction matters. Flores is not looking for just any job. He is looking for the right job. And more importantly, he is likely looking for a promotion, not a lateral move. If a head coaching opportunity materializes, that will almost certainly be his priority. But if it doesn't, Dallas becomes one of the most fascinating options on the table. A high-profile franchise with immense pressure, significant resources, and a defense that is desperate for structural repair. According to Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News, the Cowboys are far from finished with their search. After completing interviews with Jones, Bonda, and Leonard, the organization plans to bring in additional candidates next week. Jim Leonard, who spoke with the team on Saturday, was the final interview of the initial group, but not the final interview overall. This is not a rushed process. This is a franchise that understands the magnitude of the decision in front of it. And that magnitude becomes painfully clear when you look at the numbers. The 2025 Dallas Cowboys defense was not just bad, it was historically bad. They ranked 30th in the NFL in total defense, allowing 377 yards per game. That alone would be concerning, but the deeper you dig, the worse it gets. Dallas surrendered a league-high 60 total touchdowns. 60. That is not a schematic hiccup. That is a systemic failure. Against the pass, the Cowboys were dead last in the league. 32nd. They allowed 251.5 passing yards per game and 35 passing touchdowns, the second most in the NFL, trailing only the New York Jets. And here's the detail that makes it even more alarming. The Jets failed to record a single interception in 2025. Dallas, meanwhile, was not far behind in terms of ball production. This was a defense that couldn't cover, couldn't disguise, and couldn't take the football away. That context matters when evaluating these coaching candidates. Whoever takes over this defense is not inheriting a playoff-caliber unit that needs a few tweaks. They're inheriting a broken structure. The previous scheme failed to protect the secondary, failed to generate consistent pressure, and failed to adjust when offenses inevitably attacked the same weaknesses week after week. This next defensive coordinator will be tasked with rebuilding the Cowboys' defensive identity from the ground up. That's why the backgrounds of these candidates are so important. Deron Jones has experience coordinating the defensive pass game in Minnesota, working under Brian Flores, and helping implement one of the most aggressive pressure packages in the league. Ephraim Bonda has been deeply involved in Cleveland's secondary, a unit that has consistently played with discipline, physicality, and awareness. Jim Leonard, a former elite safety himself, has built a reputation as one of the smartest defensive minds in football, particularly when it comes to coverage, disguise, and communication on the back end. But Flores remains the standard bearer. If Dallas can land Brian Flores, it would signal a genuine commitment to fixing what's broken. Flores does not run passive defenses. He does not sit back and hope his corners hold up. He attacks protections, forces quarterbacks to identify pressure pre-snap, and lives with the risk that comes with aggression. For a Cowboys defense that spent all of 2025 on its heels, that philosophical shift alone would be transformative. Of course, the challenge is convincing Flores that Dallas is the right place. This is a franchise with immense expectations, constant scrutiny, and an ownership structure that is deeply involved in football decisions. Not every coach wants that environment. Flores, in particular, values autonomy and trust. If Dallas is serious about him, the pitch cannot just be about brand or resources. It has to be about alignment, about allowing him to install his system, pick his staff, and build a defense that reflects his vision. And whoever gets the job will need help. Scheme alone will not fix this defense. Personnel matters. That's why the Cowboys' position in the 2026 NFL Draft is so crucial. With two top 20 picks, Dallas has a chance to give its next offensive coordinator the tools he needs. An edge rusher who can win one-on-one, linebackers who can actually run and tackle, and defensive backs who understand leverage and spacing. Coaching and talent must grow together. One without the other will fail. This hire is about more than replacing a coordinator. It's about deciding what the Cowboys want to be defensively in the next era. Do they want to be aggressive or reactive? Multiple or static? Do they want to dictate terms to offenses or spend another season hoping mistakes bail them out? The numbers from 2025 suggest hope is not a strategy. So as this search continues, every interview matters. Every conversation matters. Because the next offensive coordinator in Dallas will not just be calling plays. He will be tasked with restoring credibility to a defense that lost it entirely. The 2025 NFL season was supposed to be a turning point for the Dallas Cowboys, but instead, it became another chapter of disappointment. From the very beginning, things never truly clicked. The team showed flashes of talent, moments where fans believed, but those moments never lasted long enough. When the regular season ended with a 7-9-1 record and no playoff spot, it was clear that the Cowboys had once again failed to meet expectations. For a franchise with such a rich history and massive fan base, missing the playoffs is not just a bad result. It is a serious problem. As the offseason began, pressure immediately shifted to owner Jerry Jones and the front office. Everyone knew changes were coming. The Cowboys were not just losing games, they were losing direction. The roster was expensive, the salary cap situation was tight, and key players were approaching major contract decisions. Dallas could no longer afford to delay tough choices. One controversial move, in particular, would end up defining this entire offseason and possibly the future of the franchise. That move was the decision to trade Micah Parsons. For many fans, this felt shocking and even painful. Parsons was the face of the defense, a dominant edge rusher, and one of the best players in the NFL at his position. Letting him go felt like giving up on elite talent. But the business side of football tells a different story. After being traded, Parsons signed a massive 4-year, $188 million extension with the Green Bay Packers, becoming the highest-paid edge rusher in the league. That type of contract would have placed an enormous burden on Dallas' salary cap and limited the team's ability to build a balanced roster. Jerry Jones later explained that the real value of the Parsons trade would not be seen immediately, but in the present and future flexibility it created. This trade was not about replacing Parsons on the field. It was about survival in a league where financial decisions can be just as important as talent. That flexibility became clear with the arrival of George Pickens. Dallas traded for Pickens quietly, without much noise, but the move turned out to be one of the smartest decisions of the offseason. Pickens delivered a career year, catching 93 passes for 1,429 yards and 9 touchdowns. He quickly became the most reliable and explosive weapon in the Cowboys' offense. Every week, he gave Dallas a chance to compete, even when the team struggled elsewhere. Now, Pickens stands on the edge of a major payday. He is eligible for a huge contract extension before the 2026 season, and Jerry Jones made it clear that keeping him would have been impossible without trading Micah Parsons. According to beat reporter Joseph Hoyt, Jones said the Cowboys had zero chance of extending Pickens if Parsons had stayed. That statement explains everything. The controversial trade was not a mistake. It was a calculated sacrifice. Still, the Cowboys' problems are far from over. Even with the Parsons trade, Dallas is projected to be nearly $40 million over the 2026 salary cap. That means difficult decisions are coming. Contracts will need to be restructured. Veterans may be released. Money will be pushed into future years. Simply becoming cap compliant will take effort, and creating room to improve the roster will be an even bigger challenge. However, there is hope. The 2026 NFL Draft gives Dallas a rare opportunity. The Cowboys currently hold 8 draft picks, including 2 first-round selections. Those picks are extremely valuable. First-round players bring high-level talent on affordable rookie contracts, which is exactly what a cap-strapped team needs. If Dallas drafts wisely, they can inject youth, speed, and energy into the roster without adding financial stress. At the center of all these plans is George Pickens. Keeping him is no longer just a goal, it is a necessity. He represents the future of the Cowboys offense and the biggest return from the Micah Parsons trade. Letting him walk would erase the entire logic behind that decision. Pickens is young, productive, and entering his prime. He gives Dallas something they have lacked for years, a true offensive identity. The Dallas Cowboys are now standing at a crossroads. The 2025 season failed, and the pain of missing the playoffs still lingers. But the offseason offers a chance to reset. The Parsons trade, while controversial, opened doors. The draft brings hope, and George Pickens gives the franchise a foundation to build on. What happens next will define the Cowboys for years to come. This is not just another offseason. This is a moment of truth. Whether Dallas rises again or remains stuck will depend on how well they handle the choices in front of them. And that is the story of the Cowboys right now. A team caught between the weight of the past and the possibility of a better future. Welcome back to the Cowboys Big News Today. Today's news is all about transition, tough decisions, and the uncertain road ahead for one of the most talked about franchises in sports, the Dallas Cowboys. The 2025 NFL season is officially over for Dallas, and as the offseason begins, the front office finds itself standing at a crossroads. Changes are already happening, expectations are high, and the pressure to get things right has never been stronger. Today's story, we will take a deep dive into everything shaping the Cowboys offseason so far. We will talk about coaching changes, roster uncertainty, free agency pressure, and most importantly, the future of the running back position. We'll explore why the Cowboys moved on from defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, what that decision says about the team's direction, and how one major free agent situation could define Dallas' identity going forward. We are not here for hot takes or quick reactions. This is a long-form conversation, a full breakdown meant to give context, clarity, and perspective. By the end of this episode, you'll understand not just what the Cowboys might do, but why these decisions matter so much. The Cowboys enter the offseason under the microscope. The Dallas Cowboys never experience a quiet offseason. Whether the team wins big or falls short, the spotlight is always on them. This year is no different. After a disappointing campaign marked by inconsistency and defensive struggles, Dallas entered the offseason knowing change was inevitable. Fans expected accountability. Analysts demanded answers, and the front office responded quickly. The firing of defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was the first major domino to fall, and while it may not have shocked anyone, it set the tone for everything that followed. This move was not just about one coach. It was a signal that the Cowboys understand the urgency of the moment and recognize that standing still is not an option. Why Matt Eberflus had to go? Matt Eberflus arrived in Dallas with a reputation as a disciplined defensive mind. Early on, there was hope that his system would bring stability and toughness to a unit that needed both. But as the season unfolded, those hopes faded. The Cowboys' defense struggled in nearly every measurable category. Missed tackles, blown coverages, poor third-down efficiency, and an inability to stop the run became weekly storylines. Opposing offenses seemed to find success far too easily, and the defense failed to complement an offense that often did enough to win games. Even after the mid-season trade for Quinnen Williams, which briefly sparked optimism, the improvement was short-lived. The defense showed flashes, but flashes are not enough in the NFL. Consistency wins games, and Dallas simply did not have it. In the end, Eberflus became the most visible symbol of the defense's failures. Letting him go was less about blame and more about reset. The Cowboys needed a fresh start. Coaching changes and what they reveal about Dallas' strategy. Coaching changes are rarely isolated decisions. They usually reflect a broader organizational philosophy. In this case, the Cowboys' decision to move on from Eberflus suggests that the front office is prioritizing immediate improvement over long-term patience. Dallas is not rebuilding. This is a team that believes it can compete now. With veteran stars, a proven quarterback, and playoff expectations, the margin for error is slim. That reality makes every coaching hire, every roster move, and every contract negotiation critically important. The next defensive coordinator will need to deliver results quickly. There will be no long adjustment period. The Cowboys are in win-now mode, whether they admit it publicly or not. The other major question, the future of Javonte Williams. While coaching changes grab headlines, roster decisions often have a bigger impact on the field. One of the most important questions Dallas faces this offseason is whether they can retain running back Javonte Williams. Williams just completed the best season of his career. He was explosive, reliable, and productive. More importantly, he became a central part of the Cowboys' offensive identity. When Dallas needed tough yards, big plays, or a spark, Williams delivered. That kind of performance does not come cheap. And now, the Cowboys face a familiar problem: how to keep a rising star without breaking the bank. Javonte Williams' breakout season in context. To understand why Williams is so valuable, you have to look beyond raw statistics. His impact went deeper than yards and touchdowns. He gave the offense balance. He forced defenses to respect the run. He opened up play-action opportunities and took pressure off the passing game. Week after week, Williams showed vision, power, and patience. He ran with confidence and urgency, traits that are contagious in a locker room. Teammates fed off his energy, and fans quickly embraced him as a core piece of the offense. That kind of production is exactly what teams look for in free agency. And unfortunately for Dallas, they're not the only team that noticed. The financial reality of free agency. Williams played the 2025 season on a one-year, $3 million deal. That contract now looks like a bargain. With free agency approaching, his market value has skyrocketed. According to projections, Williams could command a multi-year deal worth over $20 million. That is a significant investment, especially for a team already managing multiple large contracts across the roster. This is where tough decisions come in. The Cowboys must weigh Williams' importance against their financial flexibility. Paying him means sacrificing resources elsewhere. Letting him walk means replacing a proven playmaker. Neither option is painless. Why the New York Jets are a serious threat. Analysts believe the New York Jets are one of the strongest contenders to sign Williams. The Jets have cap space, a clear need at running back, and a roster that could benefit greatly from his skill set. A projected 3-year, $20 million deal makes sense from their perspective. For Williams, it represents security and recognition. For Dallas, it represents a looming loss. If the Cowboys are unwilling or unable to match that offer, they must be ready with a backup plan that or J.K. Dobbins, a possible replacement option. If Williams leaves, the Cowboys will need another running back capable of carrying a significant workload. One name that continues to surface in discussions is J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins' career has been defined by both promise and frustration. When healthy, he is dynamic and efficient. He runs with burst and has proven he can be productive at the NFL level. However, injuries have followed him throughout his career. Missed games and shortened seasons have prevented him from securing long-term stability. That history makes him a risky option, but also a potentially affordable one. Why Dobbins fits the Cowboys situation? From a financial standpoint, Dobbins makes sense. A one-year, $5 million deal is manageable and low risk. It allows the Cowboys to replace much of Williams' production without committing long-term money. For Dobbins, Dallas represents an opportunity. A strong season behind a solid offensive line could rebuild his value and position him for a bigger contract in the future. The Dallas Cowboys officially closed the book on their season Wednesday afternoon, holding their season-ending news conference. And, as always when Jerry Jones speaks, there was a lot to unpack. Beyond the usual end-of-year reflections, one message stood out clearly. The Cowboys believe change is coming, and this time, it could be big. Jerry Jones made it clear that the organization is ready to do what he called dramatic things this offseason. And perhaps even more surprising, he openly said that finances will not stand in the way. Jones spoke honestly about the disappointment of the season and the urgency to improve immediately. He told reporters that the incentive is there to, in his own words, bust the budget if that is what it takes to get results right now. That statement alone signals a major shift in tone for a franchise that, in recent years, has often been accused of being too cautious. According to Jones, the Cowboys are not interested in standing still. They want to be better, and they are willing to take controversial paths to make that happen. He pointed to the Micah Parsons trade as an example of the kind of bold decision the team is willing to make. That move was not made to save money or avoid competition. As Jones explained, it was done with winning in mind, even if it meant upsetting fans and inviting criticism. He emphasized that moments like this demand difficult choices, and that this offseason could bring more decisions that may not be universally popular but are designed to push the team forward. Perhaps the most eye-catching part of Jones' comments was his insistence that money will not be a limiting factor. He said the Cowboys will do everything possible to keep the team strong, competitive, and entertaining. That kind of language suggests an owner who understands that patience is wearing thin and that fans want action, not promises. It also hints that Dallas may finally be ready to abandon its reputation as a conservative spender. If the Cowboys truly follow through on this approach, the possibilities are significant. According to Cowboys Wire's KD Drummond, Dallas could open up as much as $147 million in salary cap space if they restructure contracts and make the right moves. That amount of financial flexibility would completely change how the Cowboys operate in free agency. It would allow them to re-sign key players like George Pickens and Javonte Williams, while also aggressively pursuing outside talent to upgrade the roster. Trades could also be part of this new aggressive strategy. Dallas was active on the trade market last year, with mixed results, but that experience may encourage them to explore similar opportunities again. Names like Max Crosby have already been floated by fans and analysts, though for now, it remains speculation. Still, the fact that such discussions even feel possible reflects a shift in how the Cowboys are being perceived. The most encouraging takeaway from all of this is the sense that the organization may have finally recognized its biggest flaw: doing too little for too long. For years, Dallas relied on bargain signings and internal development, hoping that small, low-risk moves would eventually pay off. That approach has not delivered championships, and it appears the Cowboys are ready to try something different. Of course, words are easier than actions. Cowboys fans have heard bold promises before, including talk of going all in, only to see minimal follow-through. That history is why skepticism remains. Still, this moment feels different. The tone is stronger, the language more direct, and the willingness to spend more openly acknowledged. Now, the pressure is on. This offseason will reveal whether Jerry Jones' comments were a genuine turning point or just another offseason storyline. If the Cowboys truly embrace aggression in free agency, the draft, and the trade market, this could be the most important offseason the franchise has had in years. Only time will tell how it all plays out, but one thing is clear: the Cowboys are promising action, and the NFL world will be watching closely to see if they finally deliver. Welcome in, and take a moment to really sit with this, because sometimes in the NFL, the most important moves aren't the ones a team makes themselves, but the ones made for them by chaos elsewhere. The Green Bay Packers' stunning wild-card collapse against the Chicago Bears didn't just end their season in embarrassing fashion. It quietly reshaped the draft landscape for another franchise entirely. And that franchise is the Dallas Cowboys. Because of that loss, the pick Dallas owns from Green Bay is now locked in at number 20 overall. And when you combine that with Dallas' own pick at number 12, the Cowboys suddenly walk into the 2026 NFL Draft holding two top 20 selections. For a team staring down a full defensive reset in the aftermath of trading Micah Parsons, that is nothing short of massive. This is not a Cowboys roster that can afford to draft passively. The 2025 season exposed structural flaws across the defense, from the lack of consistent edge pressure to shaky linebacker play, to a secondary that simply could not hold up over 4 quarters. Parsons wasn't just an elite pass rusher. He was the identity of the defense. He was the piece offenses feared, the player coordinators built entire game plans around. Once he was gone, the Cowboys were left with a defense that reacted instead of dictated. That reality is what makes this draft and these 2 first-round picks so critical. 2 top 20 picks give you options. You can chase elite talent, or you can weaponize flexibility. But here's the complication. Dallas does not own its original second or third-round picks in 2026. That means if they stay put and simply make 2 first-round selections, they will disappear from the draft board for a long stretch on day 2. For a team with as many holes as Dallas has on defense, that's dangerous. So the goal of this mock draft isn't just to add talent. It's to restore balance, depth, and sustainability to a roster that badly needs it. At pick 12, though, there's no reason to overthink things if the board breaks the right way. If Texas Tech edge rusher David Bailey is still available, the Cowboys should sprint the car to the podium. Bailey checks nearly every box you want in a modern NFL edge defender. He's listed at 6'3", 250 pounds, with a frame that can still carry more functional strength without sacrificing explosion. An explosion is the word that defines his game. His first step off the snap is elite, the kind that immediately puts offensive tackles on their heels. But what separates Bailey from so many college pass rushers